What's up, everybody? It's your boy DJ Big Cat. Thank you for tuning in for part two of this three-part series I'm calling the Black Plague. Um, this is the Big Cat Safe Space podcast where we're real people having real conversations. And today we continue our discussion on what's plaguing the Black community in my eyes. Because again, that's the only view I can give it to you. And, I don't identify in any other way, society wise, because I actually personally don't even like being called Black. I was born in America, so, I'm an American. It's not to say anything about my roots or whatnot, but I just, I think it's time to accept that part. I'm an American, not an African American, never been to Africa. Would love to, would love to travel someday, but that's not there right now. Nevertheless, we're going to be discussing improving the education system, improvement in employment rates and opportunities that come along with these employment opportunities, and finally, the criminal justice system and the reform that's required for us to grow as a society. Honestly, I'll talk about it a little bit more, but part three is really going to be in depth as far as what we can do as a culture and as a society to really be the change that we want to see in the world. It's primarily based on a principle that I, have found over the past year that's helped me with like self-improvement and whatnot, and just seeing everything as the bigger picture and not just in my way. And it's remembering that we can only control what we have control over. It's not to say that we can't have discussions about, the ways that we feel, but we have to realize that we only have control over what we have control over. And sometimes that's hard, especially with influence and whatnot, with just sometimes wanting your situation to be better or different. It's very difficult, but you have to remember to focus on what you can control. And again, we'll talk about that in next week's episode. Now that we got that out of the way, before I go in deep and we start having these deep conversations, I got to shout out my people over at Fresh Custom EMB. I got the brown joint on today. We're planning some big things together, so be on the lookout. I know everybody was hollering at me about these I don't care t-shirts. The fun fact, I don't care. It's coming, y'all. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to do big things over here, but it's a blessing to be able to collaborate with a Black-owned business and a phenomenal Black man and group of individuals in general. I love everyone, but, the older I get, the more I realize the importance of showing love within your community, especially if you're going to classify us. If we're going to be a statistic, if we're going to be data, I got to make sure that I'm collabing with, the people that have not necessarily the same exact thoughts, but we're on a similar wave path. Positivity, spreading it, showing love. And I'm at a point in my life where I'm rocking with anybody who truly trying to show love to other people, just the world in general. It's so much bigger than us. It's a war that's been fought for decades at this point. And as we educate ourselves, as I've educated myself in the little bit that I have, it's given me an alternate perspective on life. And I realize the importance of supporting people in any way that you can, even if it's just $1. $1, let me say that, $1, $1, US dollar, $1. Let's see. Definitely go shout out, like I said, shout out to my people at Fresh Custom EMB. Also, I Be Sarcastic, which is a subsidiary, another business that they have and whatnot. Again, y'all, it's going to be a lot coming. God is blessing a lot of people and moving in a lot of people in a lot of ways. And 2022 is the year where all of these aforementioned blessings sprout. and y'all gonna start seeing your boy moving in a different way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say for now. Holla at them on Instagram though. Fresh Custom Embroidery, Fresh Custom EMB. You'll see the logo at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, like over here. Exactly. And I'll have the link and whatnot in the description. So now that we got the business out the way, let's go ahead get talking out. As y'all know, I have the links in the description on where I'm, the articles that I'm using to get this information. And I'm going to read it verbatim. And then I'm going to come back with some points that, I made that relate to me or that I know someone has related to in history in regards to these things. So number 3 that we're going to discuss, improving the education system. As compared to Black women, white men, and white women, Black men have lower levels of educational attainment. Only about 28% of Black men aged 25 through 29 have a bachelor's degree or higher, while about 30% of Black women, over 40% of white men, and nearly 50% of white women do. Comparatively, Black men have fewer opportunities to receive higher education because those with a felony record face limited access to federal student loans. Moreover, many of the service providers within the educational system do not cultivate the full potential of Black male students. This includes grading biases, higher suspension and expulsion rates, higher rates of in-class arrests or in-school arrests, lack of Black male role models within the school, and other forms of overt and covert racism. To improve the economic outcomes for Black men, there needs to be a policy response to these educational disparities. Again, I'm just going to read through here. First, federal student loans should be made available to those with a felony conviction because it will provide many Black males with the opportunity to further their education. Second, the infrastructure of the education system should be improved to better support Black male students so that they can achieve their full academic potential. Now it's really deep. That last part or the first part where it talks about the federal student loan should be made available to those with a felony conviction because it will provide many Black males with the opportunity to further their education. That's really deep because a lot of Black males that go to the prison system, that's when they become the most educated. There are those that see life differently and they, typically find religion or they find education. The whole point of going through the prison system, as stated throughout society, is that when people go to prison, they're being punished for their crimes, and I'm going to mention this again later, but they talk about you go to prison, and while you're in prison, you're supposed to go through this reforming process to where you can be inserted back into society as a better person, right? But simultaneously, the majority of states that are out there make it extremely difficult for you to get a job if you have a felony. The fact that it's a question all the time, regardless of the application. And I'm not saying it's, we shouldn't ask these things because I understand certain jobs have certain requirements that need to be met, so of course there's always, an undertone there, but all in all, those that go to prison, do their time and come out, they have an even more difficult, road ahead of them in regards to being reinserted in the society, so to speak. On another note, I was a part of this statistical data that they're referring to in here, especially when it talks about the higher suspension and expulsion rates. I have a 10th grade education, and the whole reason that I wasn't in class when I was supposed to was, I was facing a personal trial at home. Me and my mom had a very hard time being in the same space at times because I didn't know how to transition from hearing you're the man of the house and then stay in a child's place. And I'm pretty sure there are many of us out there that related that in some type of way. And this ain't, to say that my mom's to blame for blah, 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 because it's so much bigger than that. And that's, I don't even care about that part, but this was literally the conversation that was had to have in order for me and us to heal. So that's what it was. I didn't have the stability. And before you knew it, I was expelled. I had to go before the Southfield School Board, and it was decided. I did like a weekend in juvie again for something that happened at home, and it was decided that I was expelled from the school district. Well, actually, it started off. I went to an alternative school, and the behavior, they continued, and then from there, it was just like, okay, you're expelled. And at that point, it was just like, hey, I got to do what I got to do. And school it was the least of my problems at the time. It was the least of my priorities. In order for us to be a part of the change, though, in order for there to be change, I should say, we have to be part of the change that we want to see. And we know that our schools are underfunded in our neighborhoods. We're already facing an uphill battle. But when our children aren't in school, when grades and paying attention aren't priority, when we don't communicate with the teachers, when we don't attend the school board meetings and the PTA meetings where all of these decisions are being made, when we're not developing our children, when we're expecting the teachers to be not only a babysitter, so to speak, but, literally their saving grace in regards to learning and developing, that's a problem. That's a real problem. We have to stop pacifying our children, giving them these tablets and whatnot. It's a phenomenal thing that they're adapting to technology at an early age, but when you can't get the fundamentals down, that's tough. And I know we face an uphill battle. We have so many variables that are in place to where you don't necessarily have time. But what I'm learning, like even in the most minute way, if it's of importance to us, we have to make time. We have to really, really make time. We have to make some changes. We have to look at the situation and say, hey, I want better. Let me just do better. Let me slide this to the side. And we're having these conversations because, unfortunately, even that last statement, some people have never heard it. Some people have never been able to think of it in that way because they just don't have a support system. And that's not to blame you as an individual. We're products of our environment. I'm not even going to go into this one yet. I'm going to read part of this article published by the Center of the Developing Child out of Harvard University titled Early Childhood Mental Health. This is going to provide a lot of insight into my thought process and, some of the things that I've learned over the past year or so. It says, as early experiences shape the architecture of the developing brain, they also lay the foundations of sound mental health. Disruptions to this developmental process can impair a child's capacities for learning and relating to others, with lifelong implications. By improving children's environments of relationships and experiences early in life, society can address many costly problems, including incarceration, homelessness, and the failure to complete high school. Significant mental health problems can and do occur in young children. Children can show clear characteristics of anxiety disorders, attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, conduct disorder, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and neurodevelopmental disabilities such as autism at a very early age. That said, young children respond to and process emotional experiences and traumatic events in ways that are very different from adults and older children. Consequently, diagnosis in early childhood can be much more difficult than it is in adults. The interaction of genes and experience affects childhood mental health. Genes are not destiny. Our genes contain instructions that tell our bodies how to work, but the chemical signature of our environment can authorize to prevent those instructions from being carried out. The interaction between genetic predispositions and sustained stress-inducing experiences early in life can lay an unstable foundation for mental health that endures well into the adult years. Toxic stress can damage brain architecture and increase the likelihood that significant mental health problems will emerge either quickly or years later. Because of its enduring effects on brain development and other organ systems, toxic stress can impair school readiness, academic achievement, and both physical and mental health throughout the lifespan. Circumstances associated with family stress, such as persistent poverty, may elevate the risk of serious mental health problems. Young children who experience recurrent abuse or chronic neglect, domestic violence, or parental mental health or substance abuse problems are particularly vulnerable. It's never too late, but earlier is better. Some individuals demonstrate remarkable capacities to overcome the severe challenges of early, persistent maltreatment, trauma, and emotional harm, yet there are limits to the ability of young children to recover psychologically from adversity. Even when children have been removed from traumatizing circumstances and placed in exceptionally nurturing homes, developmental improvements are often accompanied by continuing problems in self-regulation, emotional adaptability, relating to others, and self-understanding. When children overcome these burdens, they have typically been the beneficiaries of exceptional efforts on the part of supportive adults. These findings underscore the importance of prevention and timely intervention in circumstances that put young children at serious psychological risk. That was extremely deep. Typically, they say the first 7 years of a child's life determine how they process information, how they react throughout life, how they process change and adaptation. And I can say, at least for, me and my household, that wasn't really something that we talked about. Personally, I look at myself as one of the people that they're referring to that, was able to handle, I had a capacity to handle it. Despite the severities at times, I made it out. And that's a great feeling, right? But that's why I'm noticing now that I have control of sharing this information, not as a flex, not to say I'm hard and blah, 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 not to say I'm better than anyone, but to let you know there's hope. I ran into someone recently that's 19 and homeless. And as he was providing his story, the only thing I could really say to him was, man, you've overcome a lot. And this is just a moment in time, open the doors of my place as far as where I work and whatnot. Told him he can hang out there throughout the day. It's a public space. We just ask, respect the space and don't fall asleep. We good. Very respectable. Sometimes when you're on the other side, right, you have to ask yourself, if I was in that situation, or in my case, when I was in a similar situation, what was it that I was looking for? What was it that I really wanted, from the situation? And I just remember I just wanted help. I just wanted help. I just wanted to know how to avoid this, how to go about this a different way. And that's why all I could do is share a good word with them, because again, you young man, you're 19. My 19 was different than the average person's 19. So even him being 19, I'm like, yo, when you're young, man, you got to just learn to humble yourself. And I didn't even know the whole story, but anytime your parents put you out, man, unless you just got some cold-hearted people that you were brought up by, anytime you're dealing with parents, bro, you just got to humble yourself. And not in the sense of like the unwritten code, like, oh, you ultimately got to respect your mom and dad. Like, it's deeper than that, right? What's the alternative, dog? You ain't got nowhere else to go. Sometimes you just got to humble yourself. But all in all, he comes by every day for like the past 3 or 4 days, and I just kick it with him. You never know like what difference you're gonna make in somebody's life. So I try and continue to encourage him, and that's what this really comes back to. I just like having a conversation with people. That's what this platform is. It's beautiful that I get to just express myself, gain perspectives and understandings from other people of any walk, and that's dope. But let's get back to this business. Like I stated earlier, everything begins in the household. We have to stop looking at these teachers as the sole educator, and we have to instill these values in our children at a young age. You know what I'm saying? When you go to school, you're going to pay attention. If I get a phone call, we're going to have some problems, And again, I understand it's not easy. Lord knows it's not easy, but we have to. We just have to. And we have to band together as a community more. You have to get somebody on your block that you actually trust. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, if something happened, or hey, if I got to stay at work longer, is it okay? Is it truly okay that my kids stay with you and your kids until I become available? Like, that throwback stuff is crazy, but like, I think that's the difference, right? Decades ago, Black people, we had to stand together. We were all we had. There was a sense of community and love for your neighbor. You know what I'm saying? Hell, I got whoopings from the neighbors. You know what I'm saying? My mom didn't even question it. Not to say that that's okay. I'm not condoning like being nobody else's kid or nothing like that. But I mean, no, man, the hell with it. Listen, we had an understanding of respect and what it was to stand a child's place. And despite society, changing and giving children a voice, so to speak, in certain societies at a younger age, at its core, children are meant to be children. And that was something that we were taught, on break. It wasn't just a school break. You know what I'm saying? We had some type of book that came from like the dollar store or something. It was, teaching us math, subtraction, multiplication. Like you had to keep the brain going. You know what I'm saying? We weren't able to just stay up whenever because we were on break. Not to say that that's perfect, but man, there's got to be something to it, Again, these schools and whatnot. They're withholding funding because our students, our children aren't testing high. They aren't testing high because they don't feel confident in their ability to learn. They're not teachable. You know, being teachable is it's a component of life that's necessary to operate in any industry. You know what I'm saying? Like, in order to learn a skill, you got to be willing to listen to something, whether it's the instruction manual, whether you're watching somebody else do it. You have to be teachable, and you have to be willing to alter your mindset, to alter you as an individual, to say, hey, you know, I'm going to really take the time to try and learn this. I can really make something from this. This podcast, man, look, I'm learning more and more. There's so much that goes into this. The writing, the note taking. This is not easy. I guarantee anybody that's saying like, oh, I want to do a podcast and they want to talk about something, they're going to get on there. They're going to keep on fumbling. And if you continue like to just think you're just going to hop on camera and have these conversations, you a fool. Like, don't think just because you see people on live that they're not doing the work. They really doing the work. You know, you see the finished product, you see what they allow you to see. And that's what this comes down to. So you never know. You never know where your next gift is going to come from. Man, I'm telling you, God has personally been moving in me so different lately, to where the things that I said that I never do, the things that I've always said, like, yo, I don't like reading books. I just don't like reading books. I don't like PowerPoint presentations. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, you got to chill with saying what you don't want to do, bro, or what you're not going to do, because I've needed, you know, some of everything that I said that I don't like to do, or that I never do, in order for me to be where I am now, and in order for me to get to where I want to be next. That's it. Yeah, some of these kids, they just not respectful. They have not an ounce of them, you know, wants to be teachable. They don't want to learn. They're not concerned with learning because they don't have to learn at home, or they just have a lot of mess going on at home to where school is not a priority. I understand that, but you got to realize we need it. Even if you got to slide through for a little bit, we need it. Like, we got to do better. We can't say that we want better. We want a rec center, you know, we want all of this funding. We want all of these after school programs and whatnot, but it's all about the data. They want data. Let's give them data. Let's be change. But we'll move on to number 4. Number 4 is improving employment rates and opportunities. And it states here, on average, Black men experience higher unemployment rates, lower labor force participation rates, and lower earnings than their white male counterparts. These trends are not only indicative of lower economic power, but also lower access to quality healthcare and fewer social connections. Dr. Rayshawn Ray noted that there are about 1.5 million Black men missing from social life entirely. To address this, policy should promote better employment opportunities for Black men. As a starting place, improving educational outcomes for Black boys and men will consequently improve their chances in the labor market. But beyond that, policy should aim to match unemployed Black men with gaps in the labor market. Most prominently, there is a rapid growth within the heal sectors: health, education, administration, and literacy, and a lack of Black men in these roles. Policy should respond by providing scholarships and other incentives to encourage more Black men to become nurses, health aides, teachers, social workers, and other similar professions. Oh, this is a tough one, because there's so many variables we face regarding employment. Racism, prejudice, so many other factors deter us from seeking employment opportunities, but we have to accept part of the blame. Unemployment, welfare, side hustles, criminal record, and sometimes just laziness have all made us comfortable. In a way, accepting scraps that our environments give us, we have more control that we credit ourselves for. There are job fairs, entry-level positions that may lead to other opportunities down the line. You got resume builder, you got improving your vocabulary, learning the code switch. We all got to do it. I do it all the time. You learn though, right? As you get older, as you become more wise, it's not code switching. It's adaptability, which is a hell of a skill. I would not be where I am now without adaptability. You got to learn how to communicate with everybody. Not everybody is going to be able to just boom, go for it. I hear what you're saying. I see the way you're putting it down. I'm picking it up. Let's go ahead and keep it moving. Not everybody moves in that way. So you have to learn over a period of time by educating yourself and developing additional skills that it's imperative. It's really imperative for you to be successful, especially in some cases. I'm not going to say in all cases, but in some cases when people want to, change their surrounding, you got to be willing to have certain conversations and in certain ways to where, the room understands you, or the audience that you're directing, or that you're targeting understands what it is that you're saying. I got a 10th grade education, man. I'm for sure the hardest working person you'll ever be blessed with on your team. And that's despite my physical limitations. Like I said, I'm teachable, man. That is my most valuable asset, at least in my eyes. Even if I know it, I'm still teachable because I'm going to gain something from a way that you do it. And I'm going to take my way of doing it and I'm going to morph it. And I'm going to just be the best version of me. And that's all I try and do. When I get gain from these motivational speakers and whatnot, when I read this stuff, you try and implement it. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's walk is the same. You take information that you want or need and you keep it moving. That's all this comes down to. Like, whatever it is, there's some things that don't work for me. Lately, I've been trying to get up at 5 a.m. And typically it's like, or at least the majority of the year was like 8 a.m. And then when I started thinking about 5, I set the alarm for like 5:15. Sometimes the 5-second rule works for me. Other times I'm just truly not motivated and the day is just like blah. So my body's just naturally been waking me up at 6. And I'm like, okay, well, let's get used to 6. Let's get out the bed at 6, like actually. And it's tough because I get home at 10 o'clock most nights from work. Like literally my ride is like 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic. And it's tough. It's tough to commit to it, but I want it. And it's like, yo, if you want it bad enough, you'll do it. If you want to get out the hood bad enough, do it. Just do it, bro. We got to stop. Or even if you want to be in the hood, right? Because this is what I want people to understand. These conversations are not about relocating and moving out the hood. That was my path. That was what I chose to do in order for me to get out because of the choices that I had at the time. But I think it's a beautiful thing when people can stay in a neighborhood. They feel comfortable. They feel comfortable being around their neighbors. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that generation. I love that old school East Side, West Side neighborhoods where they just like really committed to one another. But that's not always the case. And not everybody thinks that way. But whatever it is that you want to see done within your community, you have to be willing to be a part of it. You have to. You have to be willing to, because it's like, if not you, right? Then who? Who are you to place expectations on somebody else in regards to something that you want to see done? It's bigger than us, man. We just got to go for it. This is not going to happen overnight, but I know it can be done, man. And I want to get involved more with people and inner city schools. You know what I'm saying? Financial literacy is something that I love talking about it, especially with people with kids, because it's like, yo, you can start these kids off early. A penny, nickel, dime, you know what I'm saying? Savings is savings. The whole point is really getting to a point to where you understand and implement that as a value in life. And I got to make sure I save. Even if you take, like, if you're spiritual or you're religious and you take tithing, you know, hey, just like I got to tithe, I got to take some off the top, boom, save a little bit, boom. And before you know it, you know, you're dealing with somebody who's able to manage books. Maybe they get older, they want to be a financial advisor. They're the first ones in your family to go to college or to make something. And, you know, then they start teaching people in the hood how to do taxes and whatnot, or they're offering a service where they doing people taxes to where you're not having to be shiesty, but I'm gonna really teach you the ins and outs of this. We can do it. We have it, right? But we settle for side hustle so much. And don't get me wrong, I love the people. I love the people of the world that take youngsters up under the hip and, you know, give them the game with these trades and whatnot. How many hood electricians you know what I'm saying? To where somebody gave them game, or maybe they went through a trade, something happened in their life, caught a felony or whatever, and it just changed everything. Some people are difference makers. The Uncle Al's of the world, you know what I'm saying? The Damons of the world. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing to show these people different? What are you doing to give these people the ability to change their circumstance, to change their environment? We have to really ask ourselves that. You out there talking about how a young girl hair is nappy. What are you doing to empower that young lady? If you know how to do hair and you ain't showing that young lady how to get her hair done or how to do hair, you wrong. You just as wrong. That's just the way I look at things, man. That's my perspective on that. Finally, man, we're gonna talk about the prison system, criminal justice reform. To truly address the social issues, problem affecting Black boys and men, there must be significant reform to the criminal justice system. Black men are drastically overrepresented in the prison population, accounted for 32% of the prison population, but only 6% of the overall US population. They are 5 times more likely to be incarcerated during a lifetime than white men, and they're more likely to serve longer sentences than white men, on average 19% longer. This reality has a multiplicative wow. This reality has multiplying effects on the life chances of Black men. Yo, that's horrible. I butchered that. Just as I stated earlier, I've never been to prison. So, you know, if somebody could even touch on this a little bit more, that may have been incarcerated rightfully or wrongfully, that'd be great. But I personally, I thank God I've never had to experience prison, and I pray that none of you do, or you don't have to do it again, you know, for those that have been in prison before. I understand we have some incarcerated that were wrongfully accused, but we have to agree that especially in recent decades, so much incarceration has been due to some reckless decision making, reactions, helpless feelings, you know, situations where we had to defend ourselves or we felt we had to defend ourselves, and so many more. Prison is big business. In my eyes, it's slavery legalized. You know, the Constitution states that you're free until you're not. Literally, like, it states that you're free. And I think it's the 14th Amendment that I read last week that states you're free until you're given a due process. That's the prison system. That's the due process. You become property of the state when you go to prison. And from there, free labor. These people paying billions and billions of dollars to continue to upbuilding the prisons in the United States, but won't take that same money and put it into the education system for neighborhoods to be better, for people to get better access to food. Not more schools, not better salaries for the teachers, not better programs to help the single parent households or the multiple working family households. Like, you know, it's not only about being single. You know, there are families out here with two parents where both parents work. They're trying to be different, but need some help. We all do. Again, we have to find ways to actually make prison what they state it is, a reforming process. We really do. If we don't, then at that point, you know, people are going to continue to do these smash and grabs, you know, such as they are. Because it's like, hell, I can't make it. You're not going to give me a way to make it out. You know, my family out here starving, trying to eat. Y'all raising rent prices, you know, just because the market is the way that it is. What am I supposed to do? We have limited income. What am I supposed to do? I want my family to be homeless. What am I supposed to do? So you get out here with 3, 4 other people. Hey, we're not trying to hurt nobody. These companies got insurance on these products. We gonna even go in after they close to make sure ain't nobody gonna get hurt. And then for what? If you got a handler, they the one getting all the money with little risk. You're just trying to eat, man. I know people that are killed for $750. They're just trying to eat, man. And it's not to say it's okay, but we have to realize this is the reality that a lot of people live. And we have to change it. We have to change it. There's so many killings of not necessarily innocent people, but just people. We got to start by valuing life again. You know what I'm saying? These young boys out here, they actually about that life. I can say I'm 31 years old, and I feel like that's the biggest difference between this generation, this current generation, I'm going to say 13 and up, and the generation that I grew up in. We had gangs and we did what we did and whatnot, but these youngsters nowadays, they don't know. They don't know. They don't know how to process what it is that they feeling. All they know is survival and acceptance, right? Think about gangs. Gangs typically are people, a group of individuals that have like goals, like mindset. You know what I'm saying? If it's a color thing, of course, they agree to wear the same color. and just overall, they like to do the same things, right? Well, as we get older or wisdom is shared with us, you realize, yeah, being a product of my environment is one thing, but what environment are you choosing to be associated with? And that's really what life is, right? What am I choosing to associate myself with? Who am I choosing to give my energy to align my energy up with? What direction are they going? Is it in line with what I want to do? If not, hey, we kind of got to switch this up a little bit, or I got to bounce. Show these kids some love, y'all. Really, like, show these kids some love, because it's all fun and games, and it's all just a part of the game in society until it's one of your family members. And that's no cap. That mother in Philly that was gunned down, that pregnant mother in Philly that was gunned down a week ago, that shouldn't be okay. The real gangsters in the hood, that shouldn't be okay, bro. It's not okay. As a potential life and a life, or two lives that were taken. It's not okay, man. That's somebody's child. That's somebody's child, bro. People lose their minds when they lose family members at times, especially for something tragic. I don't wish that on anybody, man. We got to do better. These senseless school shootings, get a hold of these kids, man. We got to get a hold of these children. Grown men gonna do what grown men do. And don't get me wrong, y'all. There's some real gangsters out there. They're needed in society, you know, the bigger picture. They move in certain ways, they do certain things. Is needed for every community, straight up. But everybody ain't a gangster. Everybody with a pistol ain't hard. And it's showing. They giving us access to these guns, man. We killing each other or we getting locked up. Either way it go. One less Black person to worry about. And that's not everybody. And that's why I said next week, I know I'm gonna piss a lot of y'all off. I'm gonna piss somebody off, and I've been praying, and I've come to peace with that, because I'm not a liar. And at the end of the day, like, I'm only speaking this from my point of view. If you got an alternative point of view and you want to present it to me, I'll listen. Hit me with it. I'm really here for it. But I'm over just being blind and just allowing other people to dictate the narrative, man, because we gotta show different. Sorry about that. But all in all, we're wrapping up anyways. So that's part 2 of the Black Plague. Man, share this podcast with somebody. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and RSS feed. I thank you for listening. Email me, comment with your thoughts. Until then, next time, peace.